Okay, so we are on page 344 in Derech HaShem. This is chapter 8 in Shar Daled, in the fourth section. So we talked about the holidays, now we're talking about the mitzvahs that are connected to those holidays. So we spoke about Chanukah, we spoke about Pesach, and Chometz and Matzah. We spoke about Sukkot, of Sukkah and Lulav. And now we're up to Ois Gimel, letter 3, number 3, Inyan Chanukah and Purim, the idea of Chanukah and Purim, so they're grouped together, Chanukah and Purim. What's the idea? L'hayir ha'or ha'meir b'yomim ha'em, is to light up the light that illuminates on these days, right? So this is based on his other theory, right? That every year at the anniversary of some event, whatever light was existing from before is in some small shape, some small form, reappears again, and you can tap into that light. Okay, so kefi hatikunim sheniskunu bom, based on the tikkunim, right? The fixing and the corrections that occurred originally on those days in Chanukah. So Chanukah, so he explains each one. So Chanukah, b'tikboires hakohanim, when the kohanim got strong, al harishoim, over the evil bnei Yavan, the sons of Yavan, right? Shehoyu mitkavnim, that had the kavona lahasir Yisrael me'avodas Hashem, to remove Jews from the service of Hashem, right? That's seems pretty basic. But the kohanim strengthened themselves. And through them they were returned to Torah, to Torah and service, right? And specifically the idea of the menorah and all of her tikkunim, because at that moment there was accusers, right? Kitrugim means mekatrig, right? The prosecutor was against inyona, against the idea of the menorah. Okay, and the kahanim again returned this to its clarity, to its ideal state, and that's it. So that's it. That's the end of it. Next, now he's talking about Purim. Right? So again, so he summarizes Chanukah. Right? So just point out, before he didn't speak about Chanukah and Purim, really. Right?
This is the first time it's mentioned.
Because, he lists them in the original list.
Right, but this is the
right?
first time.
But he did not, he just said, V'chein Chanukah, V'chein Purim, that certain historical lights repeat themselves. But he did not discuss them too much over here in the previous chapter. Why not? Because those days really are not days of Kedusha, right? They're rabbinical celebrations. They have some element of Kedusha in terms of, by Kedusha I mean, where do we see Kedusha in a holiday? When there is some abstinence from work, from being involved in the physical world. If there is, right? If we remove ourselves from involvement in the physical world, that must be because we're on going on a higher level. There is in Chanukah and Purim also Yisur Malacha, but it depends on minhag. By women, they're not supposed to work while the candles are burning, right? By Purim, even everybody says anybody who works, pardon me, does not going to see Simon Bracha from the work, right? So there is episodes, we say, an element of Kedusha on those days, but they're not really Yom Kedusha, right? So the only thing that by them is the mitzvahs of the day connects to the light of the day, right? It's not the day itself so much, it's the mitzvahs of the day that really connect to the light of the day. That's what it seems. And so the idea is, so we light the menorah, so the menorah is the essence of the day, right? The menorah is the essence of the day. Now you could have said maybe not. I could have said, what else do we do in Chanukah and Purim? Besides eating latkes, I'm not talking about that. What else do we do in Chanukah and Purim? So the other big thing that we do in Chanukah and Purim is lahalal ulahoidos, right? We have halal and haidah. So some of the commentaries, chachamim, they stress the halal and haidah aspect more even maybe than the menorah aspect. Meaning, according to the Rambam, I think we spoke about this once. I believe it's the Rambam. And it could, I mean, again, there are different ways to read the Rambam, but the menorah is perhaps becomes an expression of the Haidah, right? And sometimes the other way around. The menorah is really the Ikar, and the Haidah is like is an expression of thanks that's connected to the holiday. But the holiday, the essence of the holiday is really the menorah, right? So how would you read his reading, right? And so it certainly seems to me that the menorah is the embodiment of the holiday, right? Because it connects how does the menorah embody the holiday? Again, he's not clear. He says in inyan ha-menorah lefi tikuneh, right? The ideas of the menorah according to its concept. Right? What's the idea of the menorah according to its concept? He doesn't tell us what it is.
He just
so I'm not sure either, but I'm presuming something to do with the light of the Torah, right? Right. We usually say that menorah symbolizes to the Chachmas HaTorah, right? Also the purity of the oil that connects with that theme is probably central. Although the only one thing that's different is that in the beginning, if you read carefully, again, he says, what were they miskaven? So what were the Yevonim, according to him, trying to do? They were trying to distance Jews from Avodas Hashem. What would I would have written? They were trying to distance Jews from the study of Torah. I mean, it's true that they did both, right? We said they prohibited Milah, they prohibited Shabbos, but they prohibited Rosh Chodesh. Did they really want to distance them from Avodas Hashem, or only from specific? What was their goal? Is it right? Usually, I think, the goal was the wisdom of the Greek wisdom versus Jewish wisdom, right? He starts out saying, no, it's the Shoyim Miskavnim L'Hosir Yisrael Me'Avodas Hashem, right? So the focus is on Avodas Hashem. And then when it's Chazkul HaKoyanim Ba'al Yodam Shavu, right? And then the Kohanim got strong, and through them they returned to Torah and Avodah. So Torah comes like here in the victory. It's not there in the defeat. In the battle. In the battle, it seems like it's an Avodas Hashem, and in the victory, we return to the Torah and the Avodah. And then he says, "Ubiprat inyan ha-menorah lefi tikuneh." So what I'm saying is, I don't know how. I don't know how, but clearly he sees. It seems to me that he sees in the menorah not just Torah, but that Torah that connects to Avodas Hashem. Right? When we think about Torah, we think about it in two ways. There is the Torah of the yeshiva, the kollel, right? That's more or less, we would say, disconnected from Avodah. That's not what I mean. But right, but it's Torah Lishma, right? I mean, Torah Lishma without Avodah Hashem obviously is ridiculous. But still, the focus is on the wisdom of Torah, right? The practical application, right? And then we have a different Torah of, I don't know, let's give it a, I don't know, pick a Chassidus, right? Right, where the Torah is, learning is learning, but it's really all about go and put on tefillin on somebody, I don't know, just, right? So there's different flavors of Torah. So which one, again, if you were to ask me to give a Perush in Hanukkah, I would say, it's the Torah Lishma. My yeshivish background tells me that it's the Torah Lishma is the real antidote to Hanukkah, right? Ramchal seems to disagree with me. Ramchal says, no, it's the Avodas Hashem Torah that's the victory of Hanukkah, right?
The return of...
Right, the return to Torah and Avodah, not to Torah to sit in your yeshiva. It's a Torah and Avodah. Right? That's what the menorah is light. If you were to tell me, what else symbolizes Torah? A Mizbeach, let's say. A Mizbeach symbolizes Torah. Okay, so that I can see Torah and Avodah in one. But the menorah is just pure illumination without any Nobody comes to get warmth from the menorah.
There's no
It's just
burning,
right.
there's no-
It's just pure illumination. So why is it that according to him, menorah symbolizes that
Both.
fusion of Torah and action? So that I don't have an answer to that. But that's what I see. That's what I'm picking up from the way he describes it. But maybe
You have
maybe
to
I'm
take
wrong.
an action to light a menorah. That has the physical action.
Right.
to-
So that's a
to
possibility
get
because he
that
does
going.
keep stressing kahanim over here, right? So it's the servant that is part of this picture as well, right? The priest that's part of this picture as well. Of course, then you go back to that whole discussion that really kindling is kosher even without a kohen. Is the preparation of the menorah that only really requires a kohen. Okay, I don't know. Anyways, but there is what to dissect over here. I'm just not sure how to, if there would be like this is their Michal's Kabbalistic view on the menorah, I'd have a better picture. But since I don't know what his Kabbalistic view on the menorah is, so I don't really have a good answer. Okay, let's move. So that's Chanukah. Upurim li'inyan hatzalosam shel Yisrael b'golos Bavel. The concept of Purim is the salvation of Jews in the Babylonian exile. V'chazoras Kabbalah Satira again comes back over here. Chazoras Kabbalah Satira, right? Shechozru because they returned v'kiblu aleihem le'olam, and they had an eternal renewal of the vows, right? Hadar Gemara says Hadar kiblu b'mei Achashverosh, right? The Gemara says that because HaKadosh Baruch Hu raised the mountain at Har Sinai and they were forced to accept it, so maybe Maidor Rabba L'Raisa, so maybe Jews were going to have a good excuse now, you forced us into it, right? And the answer is no. Hadar Kiblo B'mei Achashverosh, the Jews
voluntarily,
right, re-accepted the Torah during the miracle of Purim. Right? So there was a salvation, a physical salvation that led to a spiritual renaissance, so to speak, where they re-accepted the Torah. Shechozru v'kiblu aleihem le'olam, forever. Okay? So, maybe now I'm reading into it too much. But over here, well, no, I shouldn't say no, I'm not sure. I was going to say that over here there's less emphasis on the action. But that's not true because the whole idea of accepting the Torah is accepting it to fulfill it, right? The core question is, why do we need to keep it if you forced us into it? No, you re-accepted it, right? So we re-accepted it to do what? To keep all the laws that are associated there. Okay, fine. So that's Chanukah and Purim. What's wrong with over here? What's wrong with over here is that interesting. So meaning what's wrong with it? What's wrong? I just told you that these days have no kedusha, so the kedusha really comes. Obviously it comes from the calendar date, but it's really emphasized by the thing that you are doing. Right? But that's really, no, he doesn't say anything about you lighting the menorah. He just said that the holiday is about the temple menorah. But he doesn't tell you that Mela, you light your menorah to rectify that menorah. Okay, so I could have said, okay, but it's implied. It's implied. Okay, but then you get to Purim, and what's there? And what's there? Where is your whole right, your whole central. Where is the celebration of re-acceptance of the Torah L'Olam in Purim? Getting drunk? What? Is right? So the emphasis is completely on Hatzalah, right? Hashem saved us. We're still alive. Okay, so we're still alive. Let's party. Okay, but where is the celebration of Torah? We should be learning in the Beis Medrash someplace in Purim, Yeshivas Mordechai Tzaddik or whatever, right? So interesting, or whatever. I guess that's. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe getting drunk is the way we bring it out to show that it's It's at the very core. It's not like something like,
It's in the very physical aspect of us. This we do it l'shem shamayim, meaning we don't just sit and maybe we'll break and drink some coffee. We go full on, get blitzed.
Right.
But even in the lowest of getting blitzed, you're still doing l'shem.
Right. It's right. It sounds like some external contract that we need to constantly whatchamacallit, to worry that it will disappear. It's in our bones.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Okay, I don't know. Let's see the next section. Okay, moving on. So that's Chanukah and Purim against. So what's the next question? The other question is, wait. Well, let's see. What's the what? Let me rephrase it. Now that we discussed Pesach, we discussed Sukkot, we discussed Chanukah and Purim. What are we going to discuss now?
You're mad,
Well, you cheated, but why? Well, shouldn't Chanukah and Purim somewhere towards the end, because they certainly appeared towards the end in the previous chapter when they were just mentioned. Chanukah and Purim all of a sudden came here first. So, but maybe your answer is you answered my question. It's possible that you answered the question because in this chapter he divided not in chronological order or not even calendarical order, right? But more in terms of this is kind of the good times, and this is the Yimei Hadin, as you said, right? So the division is now, because let's see, right, Dalet, Inyan HaShofar, right? However, the idea of shofar. Now, why does he start with over here with Inyan HaShofar, right? Why? Because that's the pasuk. Where is the Chumash? Okay. Right, in Parshas Emor, when the Torah talks about the holidays. So not really. I mean, right? So it says, "Veidaber Hashem al Moshe le'emor, daber bnei Yisrael le'emor, b'chodesh hashvi'i, on the 7th month, be'echad l'chodesh, you should have a holiday called Zichrun Teruah." And then it says, "Veidaber Hashem al Moshe le'emor, ach be'aser l'chodesh." However, on the 10th of that month, it's Yom Kippur, right? So ach comes in first as a Yom Kippur story, and then ach comes in again as then it says, "Veidaber Hashem al Moshe le'emor, b'nei Yisrael le'emor, b'chamisha osar yom l'chodesh hashvi'i." Right, and the 15th of this month is Chag HaSukkos, and then all of a sudden it comes back again. Ele Moed Hashem. These are the holidays of Hashem, and then again, b'chamisha osar. Again, but however, on the 15th is a holiday. Okay, so there's this ach. What's this ach doing here? It's just stylistic. I don't believe it. So ach inyan HaShofar. Let's see. Ach inyan HaShofar b'Rosh Hashanah. Who? However, the concept of shofar in Rosh Hashanah is ki hine b'yom hazeh, on this day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu donas kol ha'olam kuloi. Hashem judges the entire world. U'mechadesh kol ha'mitzius b'bechinas hasibuv hachodesh. And then he renews the entire creation in a new cycle, right? In other words, new year, right? Every year is a cycle. So a new year begins a new cycle, right? Which is why the Haina Shana Chadosh, it's a new year. V'hine nisdorim hasanhedriyos. So all of the courts are arranged, meaning they're all in session. V'nerach hadin, and the judgment is arranged. Al kol hayitzur, on all the creations. L'kifi Sidrei Hadin Ha'elyon, according to the procedure of this lofty, the judgment that's up above. Like if you remember in the 2nd chapter when we talked about Hashgacha, he talked about that the procedure in heaven is the same procedure as down here, right? Just like over here we have courts, over there they have courts, right? So he's saying, so in Rosh Hashanah the courts are in session, okay? V'hakateger mizdamin likatrik, and the prosecutor appears to prosecute kifi avnei sehem shel bnei adam, in accordance with the sins of mankind. Okay, so far so good. Good. V'hinei tzivana Hakadosh Baruch Hu. So Hashem commanded us litkoya b'shofar. Hashem commanded us that we should sound the shofar on that day. So why? V'akavona. And the intention is, lehamshich hahanhaga berachamim, in order to bring down Hashem's hanhaga. How do you say hanhaga? Behavior, not conduct, in with rachamim, and not in the intensity of judgment. Right. So the purpose of the shofar is to change the mode of judgment from a mode that's pure, harsh, cold, hardcore judgment to a mode that's more of a friendly type of judgment, right? Now, how could ule arbev, and then secondary ule arbev akateger shloi kadrik, and also to mix up the kateger, the prosecutor, that he should not prosecute. So two things we accomplish with the shofar. Right. Number one, we change into a friendlier proceeding. Yeah. Right. And the second thing, we shut the kateger, the prosecutor. Okay. All right. So the prosecutor obviously always makes the case as ugly as it could possibly be. Right. That's the purpose of a prosecutor. Right. He makes the ugliest case. The defense presents the nicest case, and then the judge is supposed to decide what's the most, right? What's the truest case, right? Fine. Now we already explained in the second chapter, just like the midas hadin, right? There's something called Hashem as a true judge. Midas hadin is related to truth, to emes. Right? So can we say that Hashem does not do true judgment? The answer is no. That would be kind of a sense of heresy, right? So, but however, just like the midas hadin, right, the hardcore judgment, the core judgment says that goodness, right, that reward cannot be given to somebody who is not deserving of it, right? But similarly, but it is also from the law of basic judgment, when certain actions that human beings do are turned on, let's say, that the reward of those actions, which is appropriate for their ideas, again, we'll just explain that later. That therefore, with the result of those actions is that they should be treated. That the people who perform those actions should be treated with rachamim ubechemla and with pity. And you cannot dissect them or analyze them or investigate them in complete and total investigation. Right? Again, so this was a very confusing way of what he said, right? Meaning there are different kinds of judgment. They're both true judgments, but there could be different kinds of judgments. It's just the same judgment that says that if Ruvain didn't work today, he cannot get paid, right? Because payment is a reward for your action, right? So there is also a certain type of action where the reward for that action is that I'm going to be nicer to you. Okay. Right? So whatever, he's going to explain what those actions are, but let's say there is an action, right, that causes me in judgment to be nicer to you. I'm forced to be nicer to you because of the action that you did. Midah, because since everything I do is midah keneged midah, and in this action that you did forces my midah keneged midah to be nicer to you. Okay, let's see. Let's see the example that he gives. Just like our sages said, Kol ha'ma'avir al midoisov, anybody who forgoes his midos, right? Ma'avirin lo yakol psha'ov. They also forgo all of his sins. Meaning, if somebody is makpid, right, like we were talking about the shadow, right? Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shade, right? Shadow. So Hashem is your shadow. So if somebody is makpid, is a big kapidan, is a big pedantic person, so then Hashem is going to be very much pedantic with him. But if somebody who is ma'avir al midos, in other words, so he gets insulted and he doesn't take offense, and he says it's fine. So midah keneged midah, it forces Hashem to also act with him that way, right? So we're not talking about, it's not outside of the realm of judgment. Midah keneged midah calls for Hashem to respond with the same midah that this person judges, right? So even though Reuven, he's always nice to everybody, but then he was mechal Shabbos, right? So now he deserves, total midas adin for that mechal Shabbos. But there may be ways. I can kill him now, or I can wait a year and see if he does tshuva, right? So, okay, 1 second. He was ma'aver al midos of his whole life, this past year. Okay, right? This whole year, every time somebody is ma'aver al midos, so shouldn't I also be ma'aver on my midos and also take it chill and say, you know what? Okay, Michal Shabbos, I'll give you another year. Let's see how you fix that or not, right? So would that be considered a false judgment? The answer is no, because everything is becheshbon, everything is true. It's not just okay, we'll let you go. We're not letting you go. We're judging you in exactly the same midah that you were,
Since there's a connection between what's going on here, it's going on there.
Right. Okay, so ki harei ze midah keneged midah, right? This is what he's saying, that this is a way of midah keneged midah. Kshehu k'moy shehu mevater, just like he is mevater, he lets things go. Kach yivatru loy, so they also let things go for him. V'nimtza shemisnahegim emoy berachamim. So it comes out that he is treated in this judgment berachamim, with mercy, right? It's a judgment that's clothed with mercy. V'zeh atzma midas mishpat. However, that is a true midah of justice. Okay. V'amnam loy ha'maisa zeh levad yigom el derech zeh. But it's not only this kind of action that brings this type of reward. Meaning, it's not only, hey, you let go, Hashem lets go with you. There are other actions that also produce a similar result. Yes. Aval kol ma'aseh, however, any action, right? Any action that Hashem pre-decreed that for that action this would be the reward, right? In other words, that Hashem will lighten up a bit, quote unquote. That will be the reward. So included in these types of actions, that whose reward is Hashem switches from midas adin to midas harachamim, is tkiyas shofar, right? Tkiyas shofar is this mitzvah that Hashem switches from midas adin to midas harachamim. And when this mitzvah is guarded, or means observed properly, this will be the fruit that they will be able to reap from it. Right? In other words, the switch from midas adin to midas harachamim. Okay. So he doesn't say what. He doesn't say why. Right?
Why should he?
Why? He just says, don't, right? He get the example, the logical example that he gives is kol ha'ma'avir al midos. Over there we understand. He does this, midah keneged midah, perfectly. Now he tells us shofar has the same effect, right? But he doesn't, but believe me, He just says, just don't, whatever Hashem decreed on any action, believe me, and I'm telling you, Hashem, this shofar is included in the list, right? But he's not telling me why shofar is included in the list, why specifically shofar.
Right. Okay.
He doesn't get into it. Again, there's this, shofar points up, it's midas hadin, that should be subservient to midas haracham, messiah. So there are different ideas that are presented in this vein.
Mm-hmm.
Shofar is Hashem Melech, Malchus. I don't know. Okay, I'm not sure. Well, clearly he doesn't want to delve into it for some reason. Oh, let's see. But Amnam, so maybe he does now, but maybe this is the part that I didn't really understand. Let's see. But Amnam Prat Ha'inyan. So the detail of this idea, of this concept, Hayachas, the relationship, Asher Lidkias HaShofar Imam Shochas HaRachamim, the relationship between the sounding of the shofar and the bringing down of Rachamim, Toloi B'Shorshe HaHanhaga V'Yisodeiseha Kifi Hadvorim HaMitim Shalom. It really is dependent on the roots of Hashem's conduct with the world and the foundations in truth. Okay? So he says, I'm not going to give you some what's the word? Some Hasidic word right now. This mitzvah of shofar is so profound that it goes to the very core of the foundation of the creation. Right? So it's not like, whatever I just said, shofar points up. Maybe all that symbolism exists, but it's like it's much deeper than that. It's much more. I don't mean deeper like logically deeper. I mean like more than skin deep. It goes to the core of the whole enterprise. Which is okay. Interesting. So now let me tell you the intention and truth. And the truth over here seems like a coded word, that meaning you're not going to understand what I'm saying. To wake up, to stir up the forefathers of the world, in order to strengthen in their merit, to stir up, to wake up the rachamim, midas hadin, and to appease the midah of judgment, and to strengthen the good over the evil, and to subjugate the forces of evil, and take away the force, the power from the prosecutors, plural over here, and to have the kavanah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should utilize his roimimus, right, his loftiness, and this we saw this before, also back over there in right, to we saw this before over there when he was talking about judgment. He did mention this idea that there is roimimus, that is part of Hashem's roimimus is to be able to override the system every once in a while. Right. To express his divinity means to override the system, right? So it's more than just midas hadin, meaning, right? It's more than just switching from midas hadin to midas harachamim. It's also with midas harachamim that specifically comes with the concept of overriding this judgment, right? So that's maybe part. Okay, so that's right. So leiskaven shishtamesh Hashem Baruch Hu miroimimus, to be mechaven that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should utilize his roimimus lehanheg b'shlitas yichudoi, to conduct the world with the dominion of his oneness, v'laver al pesha, and to overlook sin. We call zeh alidei mitzvah, and all of this occurs through this mitzvah.
Of the shofar.
Right, of the shofar. Okay, so that's a lot of words that I didn't understand. I mean, they right? a lot of things are happening here. Again, we can go through the list, but it's
trying to
Avos Ha'olam and their merit and Rachamim, and to appease Midas Adin, and to strengthen the good over the evil, and to subjugate the evil, and to take away the power of the prosecutors, and to inspire Hashem to use his Roimimus, right, to his superior divinity, and to dominate with his oneness, and to overlook sin. That's a 10. So I see 10 things, right? 10 things that are occurring with this mitzvah. Okay? The kol zel yidei mitzvah zois. And all of this happens with this mitzvah when attached to this mitzvah is also the tshuva of Klal Yisrael Karoi, that is proper. Uprote kol inyan zeh kefi prote tikun bidrochav. And of course, all the details will depend on how deep you can get into this. Okay, where are we up to? What time is it? 11:25. Okay, we did not get to finish. Oh, so close. Okay, we'll have to stop here. I think it makes sense to stop. Okay. So we're up to Yom Kippur now. Yom Kippur.
Take a breather.
And Kriyas HaTorah. Yom Kippur and Kriyas HaTorah for each of the holidays. Okay, so what did we learn today? So again, we delved a little bit into Chanukah and Purim, and a little bit into Shofar, right?
Okay.
And the Shofar is, what do we get from the Shofar? It's big time stuff. What do we get from Chanukah and Purim? That both of them have a connection to Torah. And both of them, but it's, that this element of Hodor Kiblua needs more investigation. And by Chanukah, the connection to Menorah needs more investigation. So, okay, lots of unclarity. Okay.